Moshe Rabbeinu was an Anav Ma'od Mikol Adam Asher Al Pnei Adama. He was the most humble person. How could he be the most humble person if he knew, in a way of truth, or he knew actually what happened, or what he did, and what he accomplished, etc. And still, in all, we're saying that he was the most humble person, and that humility, since he was a person of truth, had to also be true humility. It couldn't have been something that he's just acting humble, but he doesn't really hold that way. So we brought from the Alter Rebbe the explanation. It's also brought down many Mamor Chassidus that, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu knew everything that he did and that he accomplished, but he felt and he thought, even though Mamor Chassidus explained that that was incorrect, but he thought that if someone else would have been given the same opportunities and the same revelations and the same capabilities, he would have done not just the same thing like Moshe Rabbeinu, but he would have been even higher than Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why he was able to be more humble than anyone else that was on the place on the earth. And this is all to be able to explain what we started talking about before, that the small aleph shows on the idea of humility. Actually, he didn't actually say that yet so much. He also brought about that the Torah was specifically given through Moshe Rabbeinu, just like the Torah was specifically given on Har Sinai, because it was the most humble mountain, it was the lowest of all mountains. The same thing, the Torah was given specifically through Moshe, who was the most humble, and this is he's connecting this to the idea of the calling of Moshe Rabbeinu is a revelation of Hashem's love to him. And this was also the whole idea of the Torah coming down in such a way that the study is something that's absorbed and comes down to the world of the Talmud. That shows on the love and the desire of the Rav to the student, the same thing, Hashem's love to us and to Moshe Rabbeinu. So let's continue, as I said, on the 4th page, 2nd paragraph. This is also what my father-in-law related, the Frierdiker Rebbe related, when they first brought the Tzemach Tzedek into Cheder, meaning what's known as Achnasa L'Cheder, which is a common Jewish custom. The first time, often they'll do it in close proximity to the Upsharnish. And they taught him the first parsha of Vayikra, like it's known, the custom about studying the first parsha of Vayikra. There's a whole medrash about it. The Rebbe speaks about a whole sikha to explain what the medrash says, that let the pure ones, who are the young children, come and be involved and read about the pure ones, meaning the Korbanos, and the Rebbe explores that whole association. So when he went into Cheder and he followed that custom, he asked by the Alter Rebbe, why does it say Vayikra with a small letter Aleph? And the Alter Rebbe responded to him, by admiration, since he knew his quality and his advantage, therefore he knew his own qualities, he's aware of his own qualities. So therefore, at the beginning of Divrei Hayamim, where over there it enumerates the generations, begins with Adam. So Adam over there says what a large aleph, indicating his awareness of his self-worth, etc. And because he was aware of his self-worth, the Alter Rebbe explained, it allowed for the possibility of untoward things occurring. In other words, the Chet Adas. Over there, the Sikha, the Friedrich Rebbe, goes into more detail exactly what the Alter Rebbe said and so on. The Rebbe analyzes why Bechlal is it necessary to bring in about Adam Rishon and a different Sikha. Mashenkin Hitzel Moshe Rabbeinu as opposed to Moshe Rabbeinu. Dagam Shiyodam Mailas Atzmei. Though he knew his own quality, Mikol Makom Lehefshivas Atzmei. He still in all did not consider himself important. In other words, Adam Rishon was aware and he realized who he was. He was Yitzir Kappa Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu, with all of his awareness, was completely humble. Just the opposite. This knowledge brought him to be even more humble in his eyes. Therefore, it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, the Vayikra, with a minor aleph. Now, also part of the problem that we had with this is that the small oisius shows on lower levels. The high oisius shows on the high oisius is Bina, and the average oisius is in Zoh, and the small oisius is in Malchus. So we didn't quite understand how that fits in with the whole Chiba of Hashem to Moshe. The Hinei Mesipers are moving Gamkein from this story of the Alter Rebbe with the Tzemach Tzedek. It's also understood Sha'alef Zira, the Moshe Rabbeinu, the small aleph that it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, by Osan Chumash Vayikra, Ilamai Lagame Aleph Rabosi, the Adam Rishon, is even higher than the great aleph of Adam Rishon, even though we said large letters are in Bina and small letters are in Malchus. Still in all, by Moshe, his small letter was higher than Adam Rishon's large letter. According to this is understood also. Why did the Alter Rebbe Bechlal have to mention, when he was explaining to the Tzemach Tzedek about the minor aleph and Chumash Vayikra, why do you have to mention anything negative about Adam Rishon? Or Befrat is especially so. The Tzemach Tzedek hadn't yet studied Divrei Yamim, so he didn't even know anything about Adam being written with a large letter aleph. Shari say that because, as we were saying, this is Achnasa L'Cheder, the order of study that begins with children, at least the custom in some communities, was to begin from Chumash Vayikra. Imke Adayin Lo'lamed Sefer Divrei Yamim, so Tzemach Tzedek had not yet studied the Sefer of Divrei Yamim. The Tzemach Tzedek had not even learned the 23 out of the 24 Sfarim before Divrei Yamim. The reason why the Alter Rebbe brought in the contrast of Adam Rishon, to emphasize Shemasher Kos of Kant, Aleph Zeira, what it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, the small Aleph. Don't think that because it's a small letter, it indicates somehow a very low level, just the opposite, by contrasting it with Adam Rishon. So we realize that that the small aleph by Moshe Rabbeinu is higher than many levels. Until it's even higher than the large aleph of Adam Rishon. He was formed by Hashem's own palms, by Hashem's own hands. The whole miles Moshe Rabbeinu, and all the advantage and all the quality of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's even higher and greater than the great letter aleph. It's because of his humility. That's what expressed it. In other words, his being minor expressed his great quality. Top of page 136, like it's explained in that story of the Alter Rebbe, what he related to the Tzemach Tzedek. And at length, Babir, an explanation of Peter Chassidus, according to the teachings of Chassidus, in that Maimer that the Novim, the humble ones, will increase in Avaya joy. So, in other words, this minor aleph, which was indicating Moshe Rabbeinu's humility, that itself was the vessel, and that itself was the vehicle for the greatest levels that Moshe Rabbeinu was at. Second column on the top of 136. With this will be also understood why Vayikra is with a small aleph. Though it's only a minor and humble and low letter, the idea of that small, that's what it indicates. Still in all, it says, with one that is pressed and low of spirit, with him I am, the Eibishter said. Being humble, being low of spirit, that is a protection from many things. In other words, not like Adam Rishon, that because he was aware of himself, he fell through, but humility is a protection that one doesn't fall through in negative things. And not just to protect him from negative, but Achu B'darga Nihilus Yoser until he's in the most highest level. That is even higher than the level of the big Aleph that was by Adam Rishon, even though he was, the Moshe Rabbeinu was symbolized by the small Aleph. This is also what's explained in our Marmar Chanukah. We had this in a recent Maimer, the Muvishah Maimer Azal Hayeduam, that it's brought down over there, the well-known Maimer Chazal, Mashal Melech, that this is the fact that Hashem calls the Yidden by many different terms of endearment, my daughter, my sister, my mother. So he says, Mashal Melech, this is analogous, this is a metaphor for a king, he had an only daughter. He would call her my daughter. He did not stop showing his love for her until he called her my sister. And he didn't stop showing his love for her until he called her my mother. But the Maimorim over there in Chanukah, which are on the pasuk of the Haftorah of Chanukah, Roni v'simchi bas Tzion, that bas Tzion is the one that rejoices. Following that, after these three levels, the Maimer is Mechadish, there's a level that's higher even than Imi, just like we also had in the Maimer we learned previously. Shenasa Bas. Now it comes a level of daughter, Bechinas Hanailas Shabbat, that most highest level. Not like the Biti at the beginning level, but that most highest level. That's why it says that Mashiach's time will be in the level of Bas, because that Nevuah that says in the Haftorah of Chanukah, it says, Roni v'simchi Bas Sion. How is it in the Mamorim he asks over there, we're talking about Mashiach's times, Bas seems to be the lowest level. Why are we talking about Mashiach's time? The daughter will rejoice, because over there we're talking about a highest, most level of Bittul. Over there in those Mamorim of Chanukah, it's explained. The Bechinas Bas, Hainu Bechinas HaMalchus, Bas, that's the level of Malchus. He did not stop from showing the Yid in their love until he called her my sister. Hainu Bechinas HaMalchus, that's like Malchus is on equal footing with Zah, like siblings. He did not stop showing his love until he called her my mother, like it says concerning, it says over there, that they go out and they see in the crown that his mother coronated him. Bina is like a crown to Zah. It's the mother of the mother is the level of Bina, Eim Habanim, and that is what the third level is. That the third level is the level that the Yidden go up all the way to Bina. But Alter Rebbe says the Bas of Mashiach's time, the level of Bas Zion, then there is a fourth level. When Mashiach comes, it will rise up to the level of daughter, higher than the daughter that was initially when he called her Biti, my daughter. And higher than my sister. And even higher than the level of my mother. Like it says, rejoice and be happy. Bas Tzion, the daughter of Tzion, Mevur Sham, used on Madrash Chazal, like it's explained over there in the Mamorim, based on Mamori Chazal. So, in a similar vein, similarly, we could say concerning the quality and advantage of Moshe Rabbeinu. Shenemar, boy, that concerning Moshe Rabbeinu, it says, Vayikra ba'alev zeira. It says, Vayikra with a small aleph. The hein amashik true, that she is small, afilu me'atvan beinanin, even it's smaller than the average sized letters. Just like Shu'anav Mikol Adam Ashapnei Adama. He's smaller even than the average. He's smaller, he's more humble than every person on the earth. Sure, the small aleph of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Vayikra, is definitely smaller than the great aleph in Divrei Yamim over there by Adam Marish. Bechinas Atvan Rabber in the large letters, Afal became still a null. In Bechinas Aleph Zeira, Nimtza Sham, Bechinas Yashas Chayshach Sisrei, the minor aleph is over there found the level where he placed darkness, he made darkness his hiding place. Inyan Achiba, this shows the love that Hashem has. The smallness shows, Chassidus explains there's a darkness below revelation, and there's a darkness where Hashem himself hides. That's beyond revelation. Like Yotzer Oiru Boire Choshech, Bria is Choshech because it's higher. That's the same idea like the small aleph. Concealment because it's such a high level. That shows that it's the love that Hashem himself is there. Shezel B'chiras Primis HaKeser, that level where it's the Choshech, where it's the aleph Zeira is the inner level of Keser, B'chiras HaChoshech Shu Sisrei, the darkness, that is his hiding place. It's where Hashem is found. L'maylo B'chiras Arech Ampin, Chitzonis HaKeser, higher than the level of Arech Ampin, which is only the external level of Keser. Like to explain the many Mamorim about this difference, and also in the Mamorim of parts of Vayikra. Specifically in the fact that in the minor aleph is found the love. Moed al chiba yisera, this indicates an excess and an extra love. That's the idea that the inner level of Keser comes down below. How does that innermost level of Keser come down? How does that extra love come down? It's a result of Moshe Rabbeinu being the most humble. The daughter level of Moshe is even higher than the level of that Moshe hadn't in the level of Imoy, just like we said, there's Biti, Achoisi, and Imi. Therefore, also concerning Torah study, that there has to be the preface. First, I have to have that my soul should be like dust before everyone. And afterwards, it says in the Pasuk, through this preparation, comes afterwards, open up my heart in your Torah. Because just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, he merited all his highest, most levels through his being minor and small and anav, the same thing each and every one of us, how do we attain Torah? Through our bittul. Just like it was in the first time around, in the giving of the Torah and the receiving of the Torah, Yeshua, and afterwards he transmitted to Yeshua. The Torah nitna b'Har Sinai. As we mentioned before, Torah was given on Har Sinai. Why Dafka in Mount Sinai? Mitzad Zed, the Sinai Mochit Kol Torah, because Sinai was lower than all mountains. Inyan HaNivus v'Chulu was the idea of humility. This is also the analysis, the exact language of the Mishnah. Moshe Kibul Torah Sinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai, which is a very strange expression. The Lechura Tzarech Leimer Moshe Kibul Torah Makadosh Baruch Hu. It should have said that Moshe received the Torah from Hashem. So why does it say he received the Torah from Sinai? The explanation behind it is Al Shemaskir Mi Sinai. He mentions it from Sinai. The Bekabolas HaTorah Shalo Yesh Gam Limud Shenitna BeSinai. In his receiving the Torah, there is also the idea that he receives it, that it was given and the lesson that he receives it on Sinai. The Malchim called Torah, that is lower than all the mountains. Like this is explained in many places, that this was the prerequisite for the receiving of the Torah, and this is the lesson that we are taught. So we have to receive the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu received the Torah from and out of humility, and that's the lesson to us as well. This was also the explanation and the lesson. There has to be the service of being the most humble person that's on the face of the earth. Last page, 137, last paragraph. This is also where it says he called to Moshe, and it says with a small aleph, the Bezeb Beza in Yon. This has in it two aspects. There is the literal idea of a small aleph. It's smaller than all the rest of the letters. There is also that it's smaller spiritually, like we said, it has to do with Malchus, like these matters explained in Kabbalah and according to Chassidus, still in all, there's a very lofty thing, even in this, or specifically in being the small letter Aleph. Like explained the Maimed Alter Rebbe, that they increase the humble ones in Havaya joy. Like we said before, how humility is the means for receiving. Also from the explanation that's understood from what the Tzemach Tzedek explained to the Tzemach Tzedek, the Aleph Zeira, the Vayikra, V'Lamaila, Gam Chinas Aleph Rabasi. From the explanation that the Rebbe gave to the Tzemach Tzedek, it's understood that the minor Aleph Vayikra is higher even than the great Aleph, even than what was said by Adam Arishon and Divrei Yamim. The lesson from this is action. Learning is great because it brings to action. So everything that we learn, we need to know the Torah. Concerning Torah study, there has to be the preface that my soul should be like everyone, like dust. The offer called Dashnola, when it comes to dust, everyone is stepping on it. This is also what it says in Moshe, he was the most humble person from everyone upon the face of the earth. What's this expression, upon the face of the earth? Every person's on the face of the earth, and he steps and tramples on it. Moshe Rabbeinu was so humble, like the dust that everyone steps on it. That's what it means. He was like the dust that everybody's stepping on. Through that, my heart is opened in your Torah. The manner of the opening is the way Hashem opens up the heart, because that's what we're asking. We're addressing Hashem. We're saying, you, Hashem, open up my heart in the Torah. From this, Hashem's opening comes down the actual Torah study. True, the study has to be with our comprehension and understanding. This follows afterwards that he joins the Torah with Hashem. Through that, the Torah becomes beyond measure and boundary, also in a revealed state, because it's now inundated through his avodah with the infinite aspect of Hashem. So simply put, he studies Torah in a broad manner, at length, in depth, until they draw down. They make a bracha, meaning drawing down in Torah initially. He joins the Torah with Hashem. He studies Torah for its sake. Through that, he draws down the giver of the Torah, Hashem, into the Torah. Till through that, the Yidden and the Torah and Hashem are entirely one. Through this comes the leaving from Agolas, Bedugmak, Matan Torah, similar to what took place by the giving of the Torah. It was engraved on the tablets. The Altikar Choros Alocherus, the Chazal say, don't read it engraved, but from the word freedom, cheres meshibet malchus, that by the giving of the Torah we became free from the enslavement of the kings, v'cheres min hagolos, and free from the idea of exile. V'nasa cheres amiti becomes a true freedom. The mismach gula geula, that the redemption becomes close to another redemption. The kimeitzeis come into Mitzrayim and the floor is just like your days going on the land of Mitzrayim. I will show you wonders. Begula mitzvah shlema de Mashiach tzedkeinu b'karav mamish, in the true and complete redemption through Mashiach and soon mamash.